Hello, 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 everyone.
Welcome,
Welcome to Sunday Morning Grace. I am Reverend Elvia,
and I'm Reverend Peter.
and we are here to talk about our newest tenet. I love all beings with an open heart and an open mind. But first, we wanted to share why we're sitting in the bay window. It's kind of a weird place to be doing this, but we were inspired.
Welcome to the fishbowl.
This guy. Beautiful view, but wanted to share that we just had new windows put in this past week, and most of the windows that we replaced, the originals were 120 years old.
So it was time.
It was time. And this one was just a window that was
Falling apart.
Falling apart. And we kept hearing from the angels throughout this process, like to make it a sacred process, this upgrade, if you will, is a sacred process. And we kept hearing that it's about new perspective, new eyes for the house. And something that, of course, carries over to us personally. So we wanted to share that with all of you, and in honor, film here.
And share this beautiful view, the beautiful forsythia, and there's some pink flowers there that I'm not sure you can quite see in that, but...
There's the tinge. I see the tinge.
Yep. It's got a tinge.
Yeah, it's a beautiful time of year. So, Reverends Marianne and Jamie started this conversation last week. And if you haven't had a chance to listen to what they shared, I definitely recommend. It was so inspiring, their wisdom and why this new tenet is important to them. And they just had so many gems in there. So if you haven't had a chance to have a listen to that, I definitely recommend that. So Peter and I are here to carry forward with some of our thoughts on this new tenet, and we're going to start with why it's important.
Why, Reverend Elvia? Why? Why did this come about? It was 12 tenets all along. Now it's 13.
Yeah, and it was 12 tenets for almost 5 years. And honestly, I'm the kind of girl who's constantly questioning. Ask him, is this right? Is this right? And the 12 tenets felt very solid for a long time until they didn't. And I always sort of thought intuitively that there might be 13 tenets, which there are now, obviously. But I was lying awake one night, probably about 5 or 6 months ago at this point, and I'd seen a post on Facebook, and it was a very us them kind of post. I'm sure you've seen those, very polarized, very like unable to see another person's point of view, unable to be even open to the possibility of another person's point of view, and being curious about that. And I was thinking about the tenets, and I was like, nothing gets specifically in the 12 tenets that we have at this need for us to be open to loving everyone.
And
everything. Yes, right.
And there were a lot of tenets that they're just around the edge.
They're like supporting cast.
Yeah, I trust it's all good, for example.
I'm compassionate and everything.
Yeah, I'm compassionate. It's getting around it, but as Reverend Elvia said, there's nothing that really nailed it. And so part of it, as she was saying, is we just look out in the world and there's so much polarization in politics and a lot of things. I saw my cousin posted this thing on like why electric cars are bad. So it's just infiltrating sort of everything. And
it's like everybody wants to have an opinion, whether it's whatever the topic
is, and we're getting away from it being a discussion. And so it's just a position that like is not negotiable. And so part of what we felt was that this tenet really will hopefully bring us back to being open. It's like, it's okay if you have a different opinion or a different view of the world, but I need to be open to accept that that's good for you and hopefully be open to hearing a little bit of what you have to say, because maybe something about me will change from at least listening, at least my understanding of you and where you're at.
Right, right. And so that makes me curious. The electric car example, I think, is a good one, because it's an easier one to talk about than some of the things that are out there. But anybody who's earth conscious is probably thinking, I need to go electric, right? Mm-hmm. And so your cousin says something like that, and rather than saying, you're just an earth hater, you don't care, you just and then you can get extreme and be like, oh, so you must just have a big truck and don't care about gas and earth.
Yeah, I mean, I could make all kinds of, he's from Texas, maybe he's pro oil or whatever it is, but obviously, and it wasn't, he was reposting another post, but obviously he's expressing his opinion that hey, maybe this whole electric thing is not such a great idea.
Right. So we can go into that. Instead, what we're obviously sort of marching towards here is saying to him, oh, that's really interesting.
I never thought about it that way. Tell me why you feel that way. And actually had this very conversation with our daughter. I don't know if you know this, because she was talking about getting an electric car, and then she learned that some of the environmental cost, really, of the batteries and the charging stations. Many of the charging stations are actually fueled by fossil or charged by fossil fuels. So it's more complicated, and I think that's part of why we've gotten away from the conversation, or a byproduct of it is it's not electric car or not electric car. It's more complicated than that, and maybe part of it is that we don't want to get into all the bits and pieces, but they're there. But when we split like that, when we become polarized so that we're paralyzed, we can't talk about it, then we can't get to, in this example, we can't get to the conversation about, okay, but what's the alternative? That we keep using fossil fuels?
Right.
Or, get to the idea that, okay, maybe there's a hybrid.
How do we fix it?
How do we fix it? We don't even get to that conversation because it's like electric cars, gas cars, whatever position's being taken, and there's no discussion in between.
Right.
Another thing that I thought of about the 13th tenet, I think that's a great example, because think about 13. Some cultures, 13 is very unlucky. There's a lot of buildings in the world that don't have a 13th floor. Yet, in the Mayan human calendar, 13 is magic. They celebrate 13. And so even in that simple example, here you have two very different belief systems, but we can understand the heritage. And I think that's one of the pieces that I wanted to share today, is that we're all on a journey. We're all on a journey in this life. We're born into a family, and we have all these life experiences, and that's what shapes our beliefs and our feelings. And I can't possibly know what she has fully been through. I mean, I've heard a lot about her journey in life, but I can't possibly really know what it feels like to be her. So, and we've spent so many years together. So imagine that I'm talking to someone, that's a friend that I see occasionally, and they express an opinion that really doesn't jive with me. I can't possibly know their journey that brought them to that.
Right.
And so the best thing I can do is be open, because maybe it's, the way they believe, there's been some tragedy behind that, or some hard structure. Mm-hmm. To give you an example, I have 4 siblings, or there's 4 of us left. And 2 are much more on the conservative side politically, and 2 of us are more on the liberal side. we had the same parents growing up, but we all had very different journeys, and that those journeys have led us to where we're at, more or less politically. And so, growing up with the same parents, I had a relatively similar experience, but obviously it led to a different place. So I need to have the compassion and the open-heartedness to understand, okay, that's what you politically believe. I'm willing to hear about it. I'm not sure we're going to discuss it a lot because it can be a loaded thing. But the first step is to be open.
To being open and waiting for right timing. I think guidance comes in so much in part of this because, when it is time to have a constructive conversation where both parties are going to grow through it, timing is everything, and circumstances around that conversation, if it's meant to happen, of course.
Absolutely.
It can't be forced, I guess is really what I'm trying to say. And it's funny because I have a brother I'm very close to who insists that my birth family was dysfunctional. And we had our stuff, but I would never look at it as dysfunctional, and I know of clients and friends and other family members outside of our birth family that have had, real messed up stuff happen. And, it's just, so it is so much about perspective. We don't know what somebody else's journey is. And, clearly he experienced that, and that's what he's, kind of holding right now. And it's not my job to correct him and say, no, it wasn't a dysfunctional family. That's not my role, because for him, it felt like that. And, we can talk about it, and we do talk about it. I just say, well, that wasn't my experience, and if he needs to share about why he feels that, then he does, and he's done a lot of healing actually over the years. But I think that healing that he's been able to do is in large part because we have a relationship, and our family, not just me, but our whole, he's really part of our family, and our kids are like his kids. He doesn't have any of his own. We have a culture of, whatever you need to share, we're here for you. We love you.
Absolutely. And I think you bring up a good point, is the point of the tenet is not necessarily to embrace what the other person's belief or opinion is. It's just to be open, and it not necessarily to engage. But the openness will lead to compassion and understanding, and the openness may at times lead to those more difficult conversations that can be constructive. But it's not to say that you need to, the tenet is not saying always engage, always embrace. It's just saying be open.
Right.
And
that is
in a loving way, because as you mentioned, you've got to follow your guidance. It's got to be the right time. And if you're open and loving, that's going to be a much more prosperous environment to have a difficult conversation than if you're entering it on edge, defensive, no, you need to understand my point of view on that. That's probably not going to lead
That's
in a positive.
The polarization part, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's probably not going to lead in the positive direction or positive outcome.
Right. And there was a time early on before I did a lot of work myself where I'd be like, don't shit on my family. My family's functional. I'm talking about birth family. And I felt like my brother was insulting my experience. But here's one of the keys with this tenet. It's not about you.
It's not.
His experience is his experience, and honoring that, and the one other piece I want to add anyway about the point that everybody has their journey is that I've been studying this heart math, resilient heart training, and it's all focused on trauma and realizing how much trauma is a part of everybody's story in some way or another. I'm going to be as bold as to say everyone. And my brother, actually, the same one, was the first one who said everybody has PTSD from pandemic and everything that's going on. And I was like, no. But I'm realizing how much trauma is part of everybody's story in some way, shape, or form. Maybe there's an exception to that, but at any rate, through this training, understanding how being traumatized actually changes the brain functioning. And so we're more apt to be in that fight or flight kind of mode, like, oh, electric car, you don't think that's good? That's just kind of what has happened to the brain over the experience of a lot of trauma. And not necessarily like one big thing, but just these sort of little micro traumas. All of that has gotten people more into the fight or flight space. And so that's what this tenet is. I like to look at these tenets as medicine, really, that this is the medicine to bring it back, bring it up. I love all beings with an open heart and an open mind, and use that to begin to heal all of the trauma and all of it.
Absolutely. Well, I got you a wind-up car. You have to get out every mile and wind the big twisty thing on top of the car. No, just kidding. But
what does that have to do with anything?
Because you were anti-electric cars, so I got you a wind-up car.
Oh.
Sorry. It's lost in the forest.
Sometimes, yes. We joke that he has his whole ecosystem in there.
But that's my journey.
That's your journey.
So you had brought up before about your friends that creep into the house sometimes. And this tenet is about, I love all beings. It's not just about people or humans. Mm-hmm. It's about all beings. Mm-hmm. So you want to share, I think you were going to do a bug meditation or something.
That's what I put in my notes. Yeah, because we have a little bit of a problem with armor beetles and stink bugs that we've had for, I don't know, like 5 years now. And you could translate this to ticks, mosquitoes, ants, snakes. We had a skunk bless us with its odor this morning. So what Peter and I want to do is to just take a moment to bring it back to, we've talked a lot about the human experience, but how we interact with all of life and how we put this heart barrier up between ourselves and other life forms. And so using this tenet as medicine, and I will admit, I don't let the bugs stay. I did at first, and we would take them outside in a cup at first, and then it was just kind of a thing.
Endless.
But it was endless. So when I do, flush them down the toilet, I do say a blessing. Whether that does something for them or not, I don't know. But I try to, approach the whole thing as a, I guess I could go so far as say a sacred experience at least. So,
and we do talk to them.
We do talk to them. Like,
stay outside the window. Yes. You can, we have some that cluster actually before they replace this, they would cluster on the siding below this. And okay, you're outside. That's okay with us. But
stay there.
Come inside. Unfortunately, we have to draw the line or we'll be truly living in a bug house.
So what I'm going to invite you to do, this isn't going to be a long thing, but just wanted to do a short exercise with actually using this tenet as medicine. And you can do it with something that's not quite so emotionally charged. Like, I'm going to invite you to do it with whatever thing is triggering you most. It could be stink bugs. It could be your cat that just drank out of your water glass. It could be a political figure. It could be a spouse. Choose and just take a moment. Let's just go into that space of allowing whatever it is that your higher self is guiding you to use this medicine. So there's a little charge, a little angst in your heart as you think about this creature, person, and begin to use your breath, focusing on the heart center. Allowing your breath to fill the heart, fill the chest, and then release. And really bring into your awareness this entity, this critter, this person, whatever it is for you. I love all beings with an open heart and an open mind. And just say that gently to yourself. And do it 3 times total. I love all beings with an open heart and an open mind. I love all beings with an open heart and an open mind. And just simply notice how the energy shifts within you as you bring back into your awareness that person, that critter, that being that your higher self wanted you to focus on, to use this medicine. And take a nice deep breath in. How did that feel?
Oh, great.
You choose your wife?
No, I chose the skunk.
Oh, I know. Kept feeling bad for him. So how did that shift for you?
Instead of being annoyed, I'm more compassionate. I feel, I got the image of him being scared or angry or like in a tough spot. Mm-hmm. And not spraying just for the fun of it, but because it was afraid for its life, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. Oof. Feels so powerful.
So guess what the tenet of the day is? I love all beings with an open heart and an open mind.
Yeah.
And we don't have the stones yet, but they're
ordered.
They're ordered. So maybe next month we will have.
So for anybody who has a set of the prayer stones, we will be sending you the new one. For anybody who's interested in purchasing, actually it's not a purchase, it's a donation, and our gift to you is a set of the 13 tenets. Lovely little prayer stones to hold and to just contemplate. And again, I do really encourage you to use, especially this one this month, as medicine when you feel challenged. I also picked a card from the Queen of the Moon Oracle. Again, today is, the full moon in Libra. And it's a waxing gibbous moon, but the card itself is will. And when I pulled the card, I immediately heard choice. And I think that's really the essence of it. I'm curious what you have to say about this as well, of course, but I feel like the essence of it is we always have a choice. We can be in that situation where we're triggered by a skunk or a person or, a sibling or whatever. Not that siblings aren't people, because they kind of are. Well, most of them. But no, we have a choice. We can react from that polarized emotional state, or we can take some deep breathing, use the medicine. Always be true to ourselves, as Marianne pointed out really beautifully last week. We can't deny our feelings, but we always have a choice to take a higher path, which doesn't ignore the emotions. It just expresses them differently.
So I have 2 takes on the card. The first one is, surprise, surprise, human design. the heart will center is, so heart and will in human design are together.
Right.
And, our tenet we've been talking about, open heart, and it takes, the second piece of that is it takes will power to have an open heart. It's much easier to close down and get defensive. It's like, sort of the fight or flight that you were talking about. It's just much easier. It's like, I don't want to hear that, or whatever it is.
Right.
So it takes willpower to open your heart and keep it open in difficult situations.
Yeah, very true. So you said you had two things.
The first one was human design, that it's actually the heart will center.
Oh, okay.
The second one
My
was
bad.
will, using the willpower to keep the heart open. So the two very closely related thoughts
Copy that.
from human design.
All right. So, you feeling complete?
I'm feeling like we should recite the 13 tenets.
Wish us luck,
And-
because we just got it right this morning. We've been doing this
After
for a month.
saying 12 for 5 years every morning, or most every morning. So a little bit hard to break the pattern, but we'll do our best.
Okay. Ready?
I'm ready.
I open my heart with deep gratitude and intend today to master my spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical energies. I am dedicated to my spiritual practice. I surrender to my soul's purpose through sacred prayer. I own my guidance. I live in partnership with my angels. I serve with a loving heart. I am compassionate in every moment. I trust it's all good. I allow immediate forgiveness. I honor my truth. I listen to the spiritual messages within my physical body. I express myself creatively. I love all beings with an open heart and an open mind. I am one with Mother Earth, and so it is.
And that feels complete.
Beautiful. And we did it. We didn't screw up. Oh, wait, yes.
That's a little gimmick from the show Community, if any of you have watched it.
Are you doing a TV plug?
It's an entertaining show. And it's about a lot of different opinions.
That's true. So with that, we love all beings with an open heart and an open mind. Be well, and next week, Reverends Carolyn and Dawn will be on with their take on this tenet, closing us out for the month of April.
Blessings and love.
Happy full moon. Be well.